Well, moving into our second story of the day, this one's kind of lengthy, folks. We got two long clips here, about 10-minute to 11-minute clips from Senator Ted Cruz and Josh Hawley, I believe, going after DHS Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas for his handling of the southern border. Just wait till how this clip kicks off. I mean, Ted Cruz does not hold back. Hit that like and subscribe button if you haven't already. Go ahead and go down to the link below. We got a book here, Trojan Horse, How the Left is Destroying America. You can get your copy on Amazon today. It is a great read. You're absolutely going to love it. If you're not into reading, buy it for a friend or family member. Hell, buy it for a Democrat because you know they're going to need it. Let's go ahead and roll it.
But at this point, recognize Senator Cruz.
Good morning, Secretary Mayorkas.
Good morning.
Is there a crisis at our southern border?
Senator, there is a very significant...
That's a yes or no question.
There's a very significant...
Is there a crisis?
Senator, there's a very significant challenge...
I think your microphone is not on.
There is a very significant challenge that we are facing.
Yes, sir.
Folks, his microphone was on. He's just screwing with them already because he's not answering the question. This is what you see from the Biden administration, not answering anybody's question. It's Karine Jean-Pierre 2.0 here.
No, is there a crisis?
I believe I've addressed that question.
So you're refusing to answer?
Senator, there is a very significant challenge, and
will you answer if there's a crisis?
Therefore, we are dedicating the resources.
Okay, so you're refusing to answer. Well, Secretary Mayorkas, I'll tell you someone who is willing to answer.
He's just smiling about it. Again, you saw this from Anthony Blinken, Karine Jean-Pierre, Jen Psaki, Kamala Harris, Joe Biden. I mean, the entire administration here just thinks it's a joke. They just think it's a challenge. Again, it's actually been downgraded to a situation, according to Karine Jean-Pierre, but you have the DHS secretary, the same guy here that has known terrorists coming across the border and not knowing where they are. That was literally on Brett Byers' Fox News show, which we covered about a year ago. I mean, maybe it was a year ago, maybe it's 6 months ago. I can't even remember anymore. This guy does nothing but lie. Furthermore, he's told Congress that the border is secure, and now he's not willing to answer the question, of which he goes, well, I've answered it before. That's okay. Answer it again. Answer it 50 times. That's why you're there.
Which is you're and President Biden's chief of the Border Patrol in a sworn deposition in July of 2022 when asked, would you agree, Chief Ortiz, that the southern border is currently in crisis? Answer, yes. Notice none of those wiggle words, none of that equivocation. One word, one syllable, yes. Are you willing to speak with the same clarity as Chief Ortiz? Is there a crisis at our southern border, yes or no?
Senator, I'm very proud to work alongside.
So you refuse to answer. Let me ask you the next question.
Just disgusting, folks.
Has the crisis at our southern border made Americans less safe, yes or no?
Senator, we are dedicated to the safety and
security. Has the crisis made Americans less safe? I don't want a discourse. It's a yes or no question.
Senator, we have a challenge of
You refuse to answer the question. Mr. Secretary, let me show you how someone doing his job answers a question in a straightforward manner. Chief Ortiz, is the crisis that is currently ongoing at the southern border making the border less safe for Americans and aliens alike? Answer, yes. One word, one syllable, 3 letters. That's how someone answers a question and does their job. You're being a politician misleading the American people. Let me give you a chance again. Will you show the same integrity Chief Ortiz shows? Is the crisis at the southern border making Americans less safe? Yes or no?
Senator, we have 260,000.
You refuse to answer the question. Let's move on.
And security of the
Next question, Mr. Mayorkas. Has the crisis made aliens less safe? Yes or no?
Senator, we are seeking...
So you won't answer that question either. It's a yes or no. Has it made aliens less safe?
Senator, smugglers are exploiting...
Has the crisis made aliens, less safe? Are you willing to answer it?
Senator, the smuggling organizations...
Okay, you're filibustering again. Let me ask you this question. How many migrants have died under President Biden?
Senator, your phrasing of the question is actually quite misleading.
How many migrants died in 2022?
Approaching our southern border?
Yes.
Precisely why we are seeking to exclude the smuggling
do you know the answer? Do you know how many died?
I do not.
You do not. Of course you don't. I know how many.
Of course he doesn't. I mean, he literally didn't even know how many terrorists, again, and where they were when he was in front of Congress, in front of Jim Jordan. And then, like I said, like the next day he went to Brett Byers' show and still didn't have a clue on anything. And he doesn't even know anything here. The guy's clueless. But should we expect anything different from this administration? I guess not.
He died 853.
That is
853. And by the way, Here are the numbers that have died every year. You go back to 1998, you see it's consistently between 300 and 400, 300, 400, 300, 400. Suddenly, 2021, what happens? You get in office, and that red line are dead bodies. I've been on the Rio Grande, and I've seen dead bodies floating there who've drowned because of your refusal to do your job. You don't even know how many have died. What do you say to the Texas farmers and ranchers who find pregnant ladies dead on their property, who find toddlers dead on their property? What do you say to them?
I say that.
We've actually talked about this, and this is almost when we first started the Bald Brad show. I mean, this is how long this has been going on for, where ranchers would see maybe 1 to 2 bodies in a decade, and now they're seeing them almost on a weekly basis, and nobody's there to come actually pick them up. I mean, they are seeing bodies all over their property and their ranch. If there's anybody in Texas, Arizona, that watches the Bald Brad show and you got a ranch near the border, let us know what's going on down there, because I'm hearing reports, just as you heard from Ted Cruz, that there's just bodies galore just laying around everywhere down there.
That is why precisely we are taking it to the smuggling organizations.
But you are not. That is simply not true.
Number two, it is
Let me read from the Wall Street Journal. The Wall Street Journal 2 weeks ago ran an article entitled, "It's like a graveyard. Record numbers of migrants are dying at the border." The story begins with this chilling line, quote, "Eagle Pass, Texas. Local officials keep a refrigerated truck to hold the bodies of migrants who drown in the currents of the Rio Grande while trying to cross the border into the U.S." Mr. Chairman, I ask unanimous consent that this article be entered into the record. Let me ask you a different question. How many children have been sexually assaulted by human traffickers under the Biden administration?
Senator, this is precisely why we instituted...
Folks, can you imagine this being a drinking game? We would all be trashed already. The drinking game would be every question that this dude does not answer. I mean, between him and Karine Jean-Pierre, I don't know who's worse. There's a poll. Let's write in the live chat. Hell, let's write in the comment section, because that actually creates integration, and that's what YouTube wants to see. Let's do both here. Folks, who is worse? Don't strain yourself. This one's tough. It's tough for me. I don't know. Do you think that Alejandro Mayorkas, DHS Secretary, is worse? So you can just put DHS Secretary. Or do you think Karine Jean-Pierre, KJP, is worse at answering questions? I don't know. It's tough. I'm going to put a poll up on the community tab regardless, because I'm curious what everybody has to say about this.
I don't want a lecture. It's a question. How many children have been sexually assaulted by human traffickers under your administration?
Senator, this is exactly why on January 5th we announced the parole
Do you know
program.
how many? Do you know how many children have been sexually assaulted?
This is why we...
Okay, you're going to refuse to answer that question as well. Let's move on. It's obvious you've been instructed to stonewall. So I'm not going to let you. You don't get to stonewall and filibuster. Now, one of my Democratic colleagues before said the Democrat talking point, quote, "This problem didn't start under Biden." Look, I get if you're a partisan spinner, you got to figure out something to say about the absolute catastrophe that has played out under the Biden administration.
God, Ted Cruz
True
is
or false,
schlacking this
Secretary
guy.
Mayorkas, 2020 was the lowest rate of illegal immigration in 45 years. Is that true or false?
It is certainly the lowest level of immigration in many, many years. And what was it
Okay, fine.
in 2020? What was it, Senator, in 2020 that impacted the entire world, including the United States?
Okay, so your testimony is the reason we had the lowest rate was COVID. It had nothing to do with building the wall, nothing to do with any catch and release, nothing to do with Remain in Mexico. With all respect, Mr. Secretary, that answer is laughable. And in fact, if you look at illegal immigration, let's look at CBP encounters. You can see 500,000, 500,000. It drops to the lowest level, and boom, what happens? You show up. And that red line is you. That red line is Joe Biden. And you're claiming nothing happened. Oh, gosh, this was here before us. No, you made the decision to allow this to happen. Let me ask you, we now have over 5.5 million people who've entered this country illegally under Joe Biden. How many murderers have you released into America?
Senator, I'm not aware of any murderer whom we've...
So you don't know?
Senator, let me say something.
Do you know?
If you take a look at...
No, you don't get to give a speech. Do you know how many murderers you've released?
I'm just trying to answer your question.
How many rapists
Senator.
have you released?
Senator, I'm trying
Do you
to
know?
answer your question.
You can answer, I know or I don't know.
Senator, any individual who poses a public safety threat.
How many child
is
molesters have you
detained
released?
and removed into the United States, from the United States.
Oh, so your testimony under oath, subject to perjury, is that you have not released any murderers, rapists, or child molesters among the 5.5 million. Is that your testimony?
Mr. Chairman, may I have the opportunity
No,
to
you may not. You may answer my question.
You're not
Is
allowing,
that your testimony, yes or no?
Senator, you're not allowing me to answer your question.
I am allowing you to answer. I'm not allowing you to filibuster.
If you take a look at the pace of immigration in 2018 to 2019.
You're refusing to answer. Let's move on. Let's move on to gotaways. Gotaways are the people that get away that...
Damn, he's just laying into him. I am loving this, folks. This is what Ted Cruz does, man. He's destroying this guy and calling him out. And you know what? This is such the face of the Biden administration. This is showing the corruption of the Democrat Party and the Biden administration because they caused it. And remember, under the Trump administration, you had AOC showing up to the show down there at the border, taking these fake photos, saying they're drinking out of toilets and all this nonsense. All the while, you have this going on. This exposes the Democrat Party. And you know what? In our book, we do the exact same thing. We expose the progressive left and the ideology that's destroying the country from the inside out, and you're seeing it in real time. Grab a copy, folks. I'm telling you, you're going to love it. Give me your feedback. Toss one on Amazon, a 5-star review. Support a conservative, because if you don't support a conservative, you're going to see what happens with the Democrat Party running the show, and you're seeing it in real time.
You know about. Now, what happened under your administration? Gotaways consistently down at this low line. Boom, you get in. And they go from below 180,000 to 600,000. Now, I'll tell you this about a gotaway. You don't know among those 600,000 a year, you have no idea how many are murderers, correct?
That's right.
That is precisely why the number of gotaways...
Do you know how many of those are murderers?
That is precisely
So you
why...
refuse to answer the question. You know how many are rapists? Do you know how many are rapists? This is a question. You're a lawyer. You know how to answer questions. Of the 600,000, do you know how many of them were rapists?
That guy's a lawyer? Isn't that insane? I mean, does that speak volumes about our education system? That this guy, look, okay, there's two routes here. Okay, he's not answering strategically, which is probably the case, or two, he's just that dumb. And it's sad because the way the education system is, I don't know which one's which. I don't know, but it's insane. It's insane nonetheless.
Senator, this is why
the answer is no. Let me ask you this. Do you know how many of them are terrorists? And I don't want to, Senator, here's my lecture on this. Do you know how many of the 600,000 gotaways were terrorists? Yes or no?
Senator, we are focused on the
You refuse to answer that as well.
If you recall, the Biden administration literally said that our national security is our number one issue, or in terms of Joe Biden being his number one issue. You have a guy here that's responsible for the border that isn't able to answer any of these questions. He doesn't know about the gotaways. He doesn't know how many people's come through illegally, how many terrorists. You guys, you could have hundreds of terrorist sleeper cells in the United States present time, and we would not have a clue. You could have another 9/11 happening. You could have a dirty bomb happening. Who knows what they're bringing across here? This is just disregarding all the smuggling that's taking place, the sex trafficking, the rapes on little children. I mean, it is so crazy. And you can't be a Democrat and be like, well, you know, I'm going to still vote Democrat and be against this. You are literally pushing this through by voting in more Democrats or voting for Joe Biden in 2024, because this is exactly what he's doing. He's exacerbated all these problems.
What's the result of massive gotaways? Well, one of the results is drug overdoses. And we now have, last year, over 100,000 overdoses who died, the majority from Chinese fentanyl streaming across the border. Now, you told Senator Cornyn
he's
you
destroying
care,
them.
but look what has happened under your policy. When you open up the border to the worst illegal immigration in our nation's history, people die. You claim you care. Mr. Secretary, that is a lie. You know, some months ago, Karine Jean-Pierre stood up at a White House briefing and said, people are not just walking across the border.
We've covered that. Peter Doocy.
Was she telling the truth?
Senator, you are
Was she telling the
so
truth?
profoundly disrespecting.
Was she telling
my
the truth?
22 years
Okay,
of government service.
you get to answer questions. You don't
Senator,
get to give speeches.
Senator, I served as a federal prosecutor.
All right,
for
you're
12
refusing
years.
to answer. If you look at, she was lying. And she was not lying on her own. She was lying on behalf of the President of the United States. Now, the photograph of people walking. She was lying on behalf of the President of the United States. This is a photograph from just one day along the Rio Grande of hundreds of thousands of people walking across the border. You have allowed this to happen. The photograph that
There's a reason why gaslighting was the #1 word according to Webster's dictionary last year because of the Biden administration. Look it up.
was before. What are these wristbands?
I don't know what they are.
You don't.
That's insane. And he was really clear that he doesn't know what these are. I haven't seen this clip. You're seeing real-time reaction from me. I have a feeling Ted Cruz is going to lose his crap right now. That he doesn't know what these bracelets represent.
Know what they are. Mr. Secretary, you have just testified to the American people you're incompetent at your job, because I've been to the southern border, and if you go to the southern border, along the southern border, you see thousands of these wristbands because the illegal immigrants wear them. The drug cartels, every color corresponds to how many thousands of dollars they owe the cartels. You have turned these cartels into multi-billion-dollar criminal organizations, and these are modern-day leg irons, because these are children being sold into sex slavery, and you don't even know what they are. That is astonishing. Mr. Secretary, how many children have been sold into sex slavery under your administration?
Senator, we are taking it to the cartels.
How many children have been sold into sex slavery?
Mr. Senator, we're taking it to the cartels. We're really giving it to them. No, you're not, man. It is so... I'm sorry, guys. This is evil. This is so evil what you're seeing in real time. This has to make you irate. And I'm showing the whole clip for a reason here. This is so evil, man.
Do you know how many children have been sold into sex slavery?
To an unprecedented degree.
Mr. Secretary, I want to say to you right now, your behavior is disgraceful, and the deaths, the children assaulted, the children raped, they are at your feet, and if you had integrity, you would resign. And I will tell you, the men and women of the Border Patrol, they've never had a political leader undermine them. They despise you, Mr. Secretary, because you're willing to let children be raped to follow political orders. This is a crisis. It's a disgrace. And you won't even admit this human tragedy is a crisis.
Good on Ted Cruz, man. Laying into the guy. He should resign. It is so corrupt what he is doing. I know I'm repeating myself, you guys, but this is what Democrats want. You can't say that you don't want this, but yet you still vote for the guy in. Inflation. Terrible foreign policy. Sending people billions of dollars, trying to chisel away your First Amendment rights, your Second Amendment rights. You got the border crisis, mass amount of fentanyl, sex trafficking taking place. I mean, you throw a dart at the board, you're going to hit something that Joe Biden's exacerbated. Good on Ted Cruz. I hope you enjoyed that clip from the Bald Brad Show. If you did, make sure to hit that subscribe button so you can stay up to date on all our future content.